Okay, if you hear a really loud clinking noise, that's my dryer. I'm really sorry if that's an issue, but hopefully we'll be able to work around it because I need to film this right now. Hi, hello, my name is Reagan. Welcome to today's video. Today we're gonna be tier ranking all of the books I read in 2024. First, we're gonna go over some stats. I read 119 books this year. On my tier ranking list, we have 120 because I read like a little short story thing and I threw it on the tier ranking, but I didn't log it on my Goodreads or my Fable. My longest reading streak was 22 days. It's not like a huge stat that I keep track of or anything, but just something cool to note. My average rating was a 3.3, and I feel like that is very fitting for what I felt throughout the year about my reading and what I rated everything, obviously, because it's an average, so it is going to be fitting. We're going to go on to the tier ranking portion of today's video. While we're looking at this tier ranking list, here are all of the 120 books I have. Also, I have my I have my 5 different tiers. So at the top are my absolute faves, obviously my 5-star reads, things that were my favorites of the year and really stuck out as something that like, this is a top tier book for me. I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory. Second category is like and recommend. These are books that I really enjoyed, were really close to being a 5-star, or maybe sat somewhere in the 4-star category. Again, pretty self-explanatory. My 3-star tier is my 3 stars, or maybe I didn't rate them exactly 3 stars, but they fell middle of the road. They were either a good time while I was reading them, but just I knew they weren't gonna stick with me, or they were just meh. Like I read them and it was fun to read them, but like meh. My 4th tier is I remember nothing, and that means like I read this book and maybe I had a great time while I was reading it, but I couldn't tell you a single thing about it, therefore it couldn't have been that good to me. That's the category where I look at the cover and I'm like, I couldn't tell you a character's name, I couldn't tell you a plot point, I couldn't tell you anything about the book. And my last tier is I probably should have DNF'd this book. I fully believe in DNFing, but I have a hard time doing it myself. A lot of the books that are in this tier I probably should have DNF'd if I was a good DNFer. I just can't bring myself to DNF books a lot of the times. I just stick it through and then probably ultimately get in a reading slump, which is not good for me, but these are books I probably should have DNF'd if I was good at that. We're gonna go ahead and get started with the tier ranking though. I'm gonna try and go in order for the most part, but I might just start picking things out as I see them. So immediately I see Murder in the Family by Kara Hunter. This is gonna go in probably should have DNF'd because it took me a lot to get through this book. I guessed the plot twist and I just like couldn't get myself to care about the book. Okay, I see the Dirty Air series here. This whole series is gonna go in like and recommend because I like them and I recommend them, duh. Some probably could go in 3 stars, probably like Wrecked, Collided, and I don't really remember a ton about the books because I think they were just like a mindless quick read. Bride is gonna go in one of my absolute favorites of the year. This made it in my top 10 books of 2024. I almost called it 2025. It was definitely one of my favorites this year. First kind of dip into the Omegaverse, and also Ice Planet Barbarians is gonna go up here. That series is now one of my all-time favorite series. Let me see if I can find all of them. I'm putting the entire Ice Planet Barbarians series in absolute faves because this has turned into literally one of my favorite series unironically. They're so addicting. It's like watching trashy reality TV where you're like, I know this is not good, but I love it anyways, and that's kind of what this series means to me. The Love Con by Saricia Glass I'm putting in probably should have DNF'd. It took me forever to get through this and I really hated the writing style. I probably should have DNF'd that time I got drunk and yeeted a love potion at a werewolf. I had a really hard time getting through this book as well. The writing style was not my fave. I'm gonna say Britney Spears' memoir is going to go in 3 stars because it was good and I'm glad I listened to it on audio because she narrated it. Ultimately, it really did nothing new for me and I kind of didn't like how it was written. Butcher and Blackbird, this is gonna go in one of my absolute faves of the year, and Lights Out is going to go in like and recommend. These are kind of similar books. They're both like dark romantic comedies, and I've discovered that I love the dark romantic comedy genre and I want more of those books. So if you have recommendations, please give them. But Butcher and Blackbird was one of my 5-star reads of the year, and then Lights Out was like a 4-star. Tangled and Tinsel is going in I Remember Nothing. This was like a mindless, I just picked this up on a whim book. 5 or 4 guys and 1 girl, and they were like snowed in to a mansion or something. Spectacular is going in 3 stars. I read this. It was literally a 3-star book. It was good. It was fun, but it wasn't something that like stood out to me. How My Neighbor Stole Christmas, like and recommend, and Christmas in Spite of You, like and recommend. Those are some of my favorite Christmas books I read this year. Radio Silence by Alice Oseman is either in Prob Should Have DNF'd or I Remember Nothing. Probably I Remember Nothing because I really don't remember anything. I think YA just isn't for me anymore, and I have a hard time connecting to that genre. I always get these titles confused. The Happily Never After by Lynn Painter is gonna go in I Remember Nothing. I literally don't remember anything about that book. The Fake Mate is going in 3 stars. I read this after I read Bride to try and like fill the Bride hangover, and it didn't work. I liked it, but like I wanted more, and there was too much smut, which I never really say, but somehow it was too much. This is the Jacksonville Ray series. I think that's the order it goes in. That One Night is gonna go in I Remember Nothing. Talking Around is gonna go in Like and Recommend. Talking Ever After Volume 1 is I Remember Nothing. Talking Wild is I Remember Nothing, and Pucking Ever After Volume 2, I Remember Nothing. So I really liked Pucking Around, the first book in the series. Actually, That One Night, the first novella, could go in 3 stars. It set up the book well, and I liked that novella, and I listened to it on audio. It was like in the beginning of the first audiobook for Pucking Around. I enjoyed it, and I thought it was necessary. All the other books in the series, I was like, they were okay, and now at this point, like I had a good time while I was reading them. Now I remember literally not a single detail from those books. Other than that, they were really spicy. Educated by Tara Westover. This was a reread, but this goes in my absolute favorites. It's one of my favorite memoirs I've ever read. I love it. Dear Edward, probably should have DNF'd. I read this in the height of my reading slump, and it was really hard to get through, but I was reading it on audio, and I stuck it out because I wanted to get a book read, but like I couldn't care less about the story. Don't remember anything. Summer Rental by Mary Kay Andrews. Same. I hated this book. Like I was just hate reading at that point because I really didn't like anything about the entire book. The Graham Effect by Elle Kennedy is gonna go in 3 stars. The Dare by Elle Kennedy is gonna go in I Remember Nothing. I liked The Graham Effect. I remember some things about it. It was 3 stars. Like it was good while I was reading it, but like it didn't really give a lasting impact on me or anything. And then The Dare, final book in the Friar You series. I literally couldn't even tell you who it's about. Read it so I could check the series off my list, and I completely forgot about it after that. Throne of Glass. These were all rereads because I'm in the middle of my Throne of Glass reread. I'm putting all of these in 3 stars. I think I rated some of them higher or lower. I'm in the minority when I say this, but I could not care less about the series. I read it once. I didn't really care, then I DNF'd like the last 2 books. I'm reading it again, and I still couldn't care less. Like I don't have any attachment to the series. I don't get the hype, and I don't know why that is. Maybe it's just too YA for me right now, but like I don't care. I don't care, and it makes me concerned for like my reading ability because I'm like, why does everyone like this and I don't like it. It's not my favorite, and I don't understand why. Morning Glory Milking Farm. Now this is gonna surprise some people, and it didn't make it into my favorites of the year list, but I'm putting it in absolute faves. The way I think about this book constantly, maybe it's because it was surprising and caught me off guard, but I don't know. That book left a very lasting impression on me for some reason, whether that's good or bad. Okay, we have Mile High, and where's the second one? The Right Move is in absolute favorites of the year. Mile High I think is gonna go in Like and Recommend. The Right Move was one of my 5-star reads, and then Mile High was one of my 4-star reads. It's a sports romance series set in Chicago. I think it's one of the best sports romance series I've read, and I can't wait to continue on with it. Resting Scrooge Face by Megan Quinn goes in I Remember Nothing. Powerful by Lauren Roberts is going to go in 3 stars, and then Powerless by Lauren Roberts is going to go in Like and Recommend. It wasn't one of my 5-star reads, but it came really, really close to being a 5-star read. Yellow Face by R.F. Kuang is going to go in 3 stars. I was reading this in the height of my reading slump, and if I hadn't read it in that time period, I probably would have enjoyed it exponentially more, but just because of the intense reading slump I was in during that time, I couldn't do it. I did not care. Nick and Noel's Christmas Playlist, I'm gonna put that in I Remember Nothing because I really don't, and I read that like this month. We're gonna do this series, the Kane Brothers series. I really, really liked the first 2, and then the third one let me down a little bit. A Not So Meet Cute in Like and Recommend, So Not Meant to Be in Like and Recommend, and then been a long time coming in 3 stars. These 2 books that I just finished reading, Holly Jolly Ever After is in 3 stars. My December Darling is in 3 stars. Dark Restraint by Katie Robert I just finished reading, and I'm gonna put that in like and recommend. That is probably one of my top 2 favorite books of the series. It's like a fantasy romance kind of, but it follows Greek mythology. Once Upon a Broken Heart, I'm gonna say I remember nothing for all 3 of these books. The first one was a reread because I literally remembered nothing and I needed to reread it to read the other 2 books in the series. And then the second 2 I read them and immediately after finishing them forgot everything. I love Caraval by Stephanie Garber, but this series to me was so forgettable. It was good in the moment, but like I could not for the life of me retain any details of the book, so I had to binge read them so I wouldn't forget anything. First Sly Winds is going in I remember nothing. I really don't remember anything about this book. I remember having a good time. I remember thinking that the plot twist was very predictable, but I still like had a good time. Scarred is going in like and recommend. It was like almost a 5-star read and I really enjoyed that one. Twisted is going in 3 stars. Wretched is going in 3 stars. And Cross is going in, honestly throwing that in like and recommend. But they're all dark romance fairy tale retellings. Wild Love and Wild Eyes by Elsie Silver. Wild Love is going in absolute faves. Wild Eyes is going in like and recommend. Wild Love was one of my 5 stars. Wild Eyes was like a 3 or a 4, but Wild Love was so good and I can't wait for the next book in the series. I think I'm gonna put this entire series in like and recommend. It's one of my favorite mystery series, if not like the best mystery thrillers I've ever read. It's like about teens in the FBI. Thoroughly Pucked by Lauren Blakely, should have DNF'd. I read this on a plane and I hated it. I like skimmed through Spice chapters. You know a book is bad if I skim through a Spice chapter, I'm sorry. Bad, not bad. It wasn't a bad book. It just wasn't for me. Funny Story by Emily Henry is going to go in like and recommend. Almost one of my new favorites, but there was just something that didn't give it that 5-star quality. Couldn't tell you what it is, but Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez, hot take, it's going in 3 stars. I did not hate this book. I just didn't care for it. Out of all of her books, I wasn't connected to the romance. It just wasn't for me. Midnight Ruin and Cruel Seduction, these are going in, honestly, I remember nothing. I was gonna say 3 stars, but I really don't remember anything about these. The Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy. I remember nothing. This might be an unpopular opinion, but I did not care. I did not care at all about the series. I was listening to them on audio and I was just having it as like a background because I wanted to like them. But if you asked me to pick them up physically, I would have been like, I can't do it. Because it makes the story so much more immersive. These audiobooks had mixed media and like tapes and all this cool audio effects and stuff. So it made it like listening to a podcast, which I really enjoyed, which I can listen to a podcast all day long. But reading them was a challenge and I just couldn't get through it. But it was so unmemorable to me, like I forgot I even read this series that I'm putting it in the I remember nothing category. Sweet Berries, I'm putting in I remember nothing. I wanted this to be as good as Morning Glory Milking Farm, but it wasn't. I'm gonna continue on with the series, but I think the first book just hit so different and I don't think any of the other ones are gonna compare. King of Greed, I remember nothing. All of Anna Huang's books have recently been like I remember nothing, like they're fine or even like not enjoyable when I read them, and then I remember nothing after I read them. So all the philosophy books I read this year, we're gonna put all of these in prob should have DNF'd because these were not my choice. I didn't read these by choice. I read them for a class and they were fine. I didn't really enjoy them, but they were fine. We're gonna do the 2 other Sarah J. Maas books I have left, House of Sky and Breath in like and recommend, and House of Flame and Shadow in like and recommend as well. House of Flame and Shadow was like on my top 10. Actually, it was an honorable mention. Done and Dusted and Swift and Saddled. Done and Dusted is going in like and recommend, and Swift and Saddled is going in 3 stars. Basically the Chestnut Spring series, except for shorter, different characters, different author obviously, but like kind of the same premise, plot, and feeling. We're gonna go through and do all the Freedom McFadden's. I think most of them are gonna be 3 stars. Inmate, 3 stars. It was fine. Teacher, 3 stars. It was fine. Didn't guess all of the plot twists, guessed some of the plot twists. House Across the Lake by Riley Sager, I remember nothing. The Soulmate by Sally Hepworth, for putting that in I remember nothing. Thrillers didn't really do it for me this year. And then Rock, Paper, Scissors, I remember nothing. All of the Bridgerton books, we're gonna throw all of these in 3 stars. I read all of them and all of them were a fun time while I was reading them, and I remember things about the book books, they were all just meh. It never gave me like an, oh my god, like this is so fun, this is so cute, a good happy romance book feeling like the Bridgerton show gave me, but they were all like enjoyable and fun and entertaining, and there was definitely problems with those books. Hannah Bonham Young's work, let's go through and do that. Next to You is in like and recommend, but Out on a Limb and Next of Kin is going in 3 stars. They were not my favorites, they were enjoyable but not my favorites. Next to You was one of my 5-star reads, but I remember honestly almost nothing about it, but I remember that I had a 5-star feeling while I was reading it, so it is going to go in like and recommend because I feel like I can't say it's a new favorite. I really love that book. Daydream by Hannah Grace, that's going in 3 stars. It was just meh. I was expecting more. Same for Leather and Lark. I was expecting more and then it just turned out to be meh, unfortunately. Her Soul to Take, I'm gonna put this also in 3 stars because I read this during my reading slump. I think if I hadn't read it during my reading slump, I would have loved it, and that is why I'm continuing on with the series, but unfortunately the reading slump hindered that very much. Mr. Fixer-Upper is going in I Remember Nothing because it was probably a 3-star and it was like okay, but I really don't remember anything. Same for the Alice Network. It was like a 3-star, but I really don't remember anything. I don't know how much I love historical fiction. Maybe I haven't been reading the right historical fiction quite yet, but I'm trying it out in 2025. The Trouble Hating You is an I Remember Nothing. It was a fun time while I was reading it, but again, couldn't tell you the main characters' names, could not tell you a single thing about the book. Check and Mate, I'm gonna put this in like and recommend because the way I read it in one sitting and like all in one day really made me enjoy the book more. If I had like paced it out and read it in a normal pace, I think it wouldn't have been as good as I think it is now. We're getting down to like the last 10. The Wishing Game, I'm putting this in I Remember Nothing. I really don't remember anything. It's about a kid in a library and that's probably all I could tell you. A Very Stalker Christmas, we're going to put that in 3 stars. I wanted to read something stalkerish after I read Lights Out and I picked that one up because it was a Christmas novella and it was like worth it because I was in that mood, but like otherwise I probably wouldn't have cared or even had the urge to pick it up. The 7-Year Slip, we're gonna throw in 3 stars. It was good while I was reading it, but like ultimately meh. I rated it a 4 stars. Actually, I'm gonna say 7-Year Slip is like and recommend. I changed my mind on that one. I talked myself out of it. Love Wager, literally remember nothing. I literally remember not a single thing about this book. Characters, plot, absolutely nothing. The Perfect Couple by Ellen Hilderbrand, also I remember nothing. These books at the bottom here, they didn't catch my eye, so I'm kind of forgetting I read them. Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross, probably should have DNF'd. I really didn't enjoy this series, but I wanted to push through it because I bought the covers from the UK and they were expensive, so I did push through for that reason. A Very Krampus Holiday, this is the little 15, it was 15 pages, which is why I didn't log it as a book because I was like, it's 15 pages, that's like reading an infomercial or something. I'm gonna put it in probably should have DNF'd. Like I enjoyed it in the moment and I wasn't ever gonna DNF it because it was 15 pages, but it was like, why did I read that? I thought it was gonna be longer. I didn't know it was 15 pages. Chase Me and Make Me, I'm putting this in I Remember Nothing because I genuinely don't remember anything about either of these books. I think I'm growing out of Tessa Bailey. I don't think she's for me anymore. The Serpent and the Wings of Night, we're putting this in like and recommend. One of the best fantasies I probably read this year. I need to continue to read fantasy because that used to be my favorite genre and I'm kind of falling out of reading it, but I really love it and I should read it more. Conjuring of Light, I Remember Nothing. I finished the series and I'm glad I finished the series. Animal Farm, we're gonna put that in like and recommend. It was a really fun classic that I read this year in my free time, and that kind of just reminded me that like I can read classics in my free time and they're not hard or boring and they're enjoyable and I can read them and have a good time. I'm gonna put Brutal Prince in like and recommend. I read this in one sitting. Such a good book to binge and I really want to continue and finish the series because I own all of them. It's like a mafia romance. All Roads Lead Here, we're gonna put this in 3 stars. I enjoyed it. I don't really think it invokes any feelings in me when I'm looking at the cover and being like, wow, you read that this year? So I think it goes in 3 stars. Here is our final categories, final list. A lot in like and recommend, a lot in 3 stars, a lot in I Remember Nothing, and probably should have DNF'd. Is kind of a short list, which is good. This middle category is pretty large. It's the bulk of the books, which makes sense for a 3.3 kind of rating. I really had a fun time reading this year. I've never done a tier ranking before, so this was really fun. Let me know if you enjoyed it. I'll link my little tier ranking thing in the description if I can, if you want to create one for yourself. Thank you so much for watching. I had such a fun time and I hope you enjoyed. I love you so much. See you in another one. Bye.